More SEC on SEC action this week. Thank God. Who is on upset alert? And Arch Manning Mania. Catch it. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. On today's show, we'll preview all the SEC Week 4 matchups. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers who are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, welcome in. Our buddy Chris Marler joins us each and every week to run through some of the SEC games in SEC Week 4. And right off the top, let me apologize. I just grabbed a shirt leaving the house, and it's a Live Golf shirt. And I went to the Live Golf Tour. I liked it. I had fun. I think Bryson DeChambeau is playing for like the Live Golf title this weekend in Dallas, but I'm not going. I don't like endorse them or anything. I'm just wearing the shirt.
This is Frank's shirt. It says Frank.
I got this shirt from Frank. All right. So that's for those of you watching on YouTube. For our audio listeners, let's dive into it. Marler, we got bye weeks for Bama and Georgia. Just a quick thought. I mean, 2 weeks for both those teams to prep. I don't think, like, it feels like next week's conversation is going to be dominated by that matchup.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I believe it was the first primetime game that they set when they rolled out everything with like the new SEC on ABC and ESPN schedule. Like that was one of the first games of the year that was circled, put it primetime, all the good stuff. It should be a great game. It's in Tuscaloosa. It feels weird whenever these two meet up, not in Atlanta. Like when they meet up like at an actual home stadium. And it's really the first time because, outside the COVID year, it's the first full stadium they would have played each other in since like 2015. Here's the thing. Bama bounced back against Wisconsin, looked a lot better than they did against USF. Georgia, kind of the opposite. There's no chance that Georgia team that was in Lexington is going to be the same Georgia team that's in Tuscaloosa. Just there's absolutely no way. And like, I think Kirby Smart has to love it because you got this like prisoner of the moment mentality from everyone doubting Georgia now after the game against Kentucky. And you're like, everyone's just forgetting about them dismantling Clemson in week 1.
Yeah, and he loves the AP bumping Texas ahead of them. And I mean, like, come on, Kirby's going to go, no one believes in us. I mean, okay, we'll see how that one plays out next week. Let's get into some of the games this week. 11 a.m. Central on ESPN, Marler. This is the lead. College game day is leading into this game. We will get 1-2 Florida at Mississippi State. The Gators, a 6-point road favorite. I don't know anybody other than maybe Vandy they would be favored against on the road. But Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway expected to both play again. Trey Wilson on the injury report again these last couple days. So it sounds like he will not play. But talk about, man, if Billy Napier loses this one, he will not be the head coach in 2 weeks when they play UCF.
Dude, it's so weird because, like, I mean, you're right. Like, that seems like that would be the logical solution and next step, and also probably deserved at this point. If you lose to a team, that just got beat by 24 to like against Toledo, like the optics of that are so bad. The thing that's so weird about this, though, is that like Scott Strickland is still the more deserving person that should be fired at Florida, the AD, and like he's made like 6 total hires, I think. The thing about Scott Strickland is that, like, you can't let him make the next hire. Like, he cannot be in charge of it because his track record has been so bad. But the good news for him is that he doesn't have to try out there and coach 9 more games on national television. So I think it should be this is going to be like just I hope it rains. And it's just like an absolute slop fest because that's what it feels like from like both programs going into it.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched the replay the other night on SEC Network of the Toledo, Mississippi State, and like I don't know, man. They just start so cold out of the gates. Like they scored 3 points in the first half in each of the last 2 weeks that they've lost Mississippi State. I'm like, Jeff Levy, you're this offensive mind, dude. What's going on? And then they turn it on the second half. They can score points, but I don't know. This could get real ugly. But Florida, man, it was ugly last week against A&M, and everybody was calling for Lagway, and he kind of came back down to earth, but. No guy can get any. If you just keep switching quarterbacks every drive, you can't get any kind of momentum going.
No, it's really the way he's handled it. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I don't think anybody thought Billy Napier was going to handle this very delicate situation in like in a promising way. That just would not be the Napier way. But I will say that, like, last week Lagway comes in. He didn't look great. Mertz looked good at times. The main thing is, like, whoever is able to run the football, oddly enough, is going to win this game, because like that's not a staple for a Jeff Levy offense or anything like that. But you watch what Arizona State did to Mississippi State. You watch what A&M did to Florida. I mean, at one point going into half, I think it was like 13-0, and Florida pinned A&M down to the 1-yard line. And A&M went on a 15-play, 99-yard drive, and they ran the football on 14 of the 15 plays. So I think that is going to be like the probably like the game plan for both teams, but it's also not the strength.
Right.
Oof.
Well, it's gonna be ugly. You making a pick in this one?
I don't want to, but I will. I mean, listen, Florida should have a more talented roster. I just can't get over Mississippi State not only losing by 24 to a MAC team. I also still can't get over the fact that they just got ran through by Arizona State, who kind of struggled in the ground game against Texas State the week after.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably go with Florida too, but I don't like it at all. But by the way, Urban Meyer said on a podcast this week, asked, if Florida fires Napier, would you go back and coach? He said that ship has sailed. So Urban Meyer not coming back to Gainesville. Lock it in.
I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise, but like, what's he got going on? He's got nothing to do.
His podcast going on with Mark Ingram and all the big noon snooze fest games over there on Fox. 11. Speaking of snooze fest, how about 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern on the SEC Network? It'll be 2-1 Ohio at 1-2 Kentucky. The Wildcats 20-point home favorites. I had to look it up. Ohio lost by 16 to Syracuse week 1. They beat South Alabama in week 2. Kentucky, Mark Stoops saying that Chip Trainum will be out again this week. Sumo Karngbe has actually been a pretty solid running back so far for him. But to me, this is one, Marler, get Brock Vandergriff going. 3 starts so far, 300 yards. Like, we're going back to the old days of sucky quarterbacks at Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, also just got a little PTSD from that Ohio-Syracuse game, because they lost by 16, and the spread was definitely 16.5, so people don't forget. No, I mean, they have to get Vandergriff going. Like, he was good at times last week. He needs a complimentary run game. It's very clear that he's not talented enough to do all this on his own. He's got the receivers, and he's got a decent supporting cast around him. That offensive line has just been bad. I mean, just really, really bad. Like, I think his last 30 or so dropbacks, I think he was pressured on over 52% of them. I mean, he's been running for his life. And granted, it's Georgia, but it's the same way against South Carolina. They just haven't looked crisp at all. And you would think usually with Kentucky, they get some of these easy games out of the way early. That is not the case this season. I mean, they have to bury this team early.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, Kentucky, you got to win this one, and hopefully, it sounds like the fan base is bought back in a little bit after the close loss to Georgia. I mean, they honestly could have won that game, but let opportunity slip away. Let's get to what I think is really, in my opinion, Marla, the SEC game of the week. We'll get to Tennessee, Oklahoma later, but 2:30 Central on ESPN. It's 2-1 Arkansas, 2-1 Auburn. Auburn's been sitting at about a 3-point home favorite all week in this one. The Hank Brown era officially gets underway. 4 touchdown passes last week in his debut against New Mexico. The thing about Arkansas, though, Marla, they have not scored less than 30 points in a game this year. Bobby Petrino has been doing his thing offensively, maybe a little bit closer to versus UAB last week than it should have been, but this is a monumental game for both sides. Like, if you win this game, you're going to be feeling really good about yourself. If you lose, you're going to feel like the season's over.
Yeah, I mean, this is always one, I feel like, the drunkest SEC game every single year. Like, something stupid will happen in this game. The thing about Hank Brown, he looked really good last week. 4 touchdowns, no picks. I think he was 68% completion percentage, whatever. He did all that without Cam Coleman, which is, I think, it feels like he can only be going up from here. Arkansas's defense is not exactly great. I would expect Landon Jackson to finally get going a little bit against a pretty bad Auburn offensive line. But here's the thing that's scary is New Mexico ran the ball at will against Auburn for most of that game. And I think they averaged over 6 yards a carry, over 5.5 yards a carry throughout the entire game. you look at what Arkansas has, the running back, whose name is escaping me right now, but he's averaging over 8 yards a carry. Taylor Green, who's been tremendous, is averaging over 6 yards a carry. And as long as they can protect the football for both sides, really. But if Arkansas can protect the football, they should already be 3-0. They could easily be 4-0 going into this game. I just don't know if they have the mental composure to last 60 minutes in a tough environment. But this is honestly, man, if you said that Arkansas won by 10 or Auburn won by 30, there's the range of what could happen in this game is so wide. Right. I would believe anything.
Yeah, Travis Williams. I mean, this is your paycheck game. You're supposed to be a really good DC. This is one go earn your paycheck and show what you can do. And I'm getting the vibes, Marler, that Hank Brown comes crashing back down to earth. That he throws a pick six. That he fumbles a ball. That's my early feel in the game. But right. Arkansas, I mean, you're gonna have to play real special to go win on the road. And to your point, though, Jaquin Jackson, Taylor Green, I think the offense could do enough. We'll see, but I'm leaning Arkansas on the upset right now. We'll see how it plays out. All right, more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, more with Marler here in just a second, but I want to remind you guys today's episode is presented to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive, and eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whatever it is, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with that eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. It's ebaymotors.com. All right, as we dive back into it with our buddy Chris Marler, also host of Locked On Gamecocks. We'll get to them in just a second. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Every dayers, keep checking us out each and every day. We'll be back Monday, giving you our winners and losers of the weekend. And Marler, let's get into some of the afternoon games. 2:30 Central on ABC. It is 1-1 UCLA at number 16 LSU. And I can't believe this line. I mean, it feels like it's been going up, up, and up. I thought I saw it around 2021. And as of right now, it is LSU minus 24 over at FanDuel. I don't know, man. LSU has been playing with fire. They were lucky to get out with the win in Columbia last week, but 24 points. I get UCLA has kind of stunk up the joint. They looked awful up at Indiana last week, but 24 seems like a lot.
I mean, they also had a 3-point win in week one against Hawaii. They also took their bye week in the second week of the season and then got beat by 30 against Indiana. That's a tough start to the Deshaun Foster era. I mean, the thing is, they're just not very good at anything. You keep waiting for LSU to put more of the pieces together, like Blake Baker's defense, and trying to figure out where to put Harold Perkins. And the defensive line is probably the weakest link of this team. But I keep saying, of all the question marks that LSU has, the one thing they definitely don't have any questions about at all, Garrett Nussmeier is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He has been awesome. And, he's having to carry the load on offense because the run game's been pretty bad until last week. But averaging 38.7 attempts per game, it's the second highest in the last decade. I think they should win. They should win big and then kind of coast into – who do they have? I think they have USA next week, and then they get a week off for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I mean, get healthy. You need a big win, but it's weird because this is a pretty cool helmet game, and no one cares, even in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and it's just a weird game. You opened with USC and you play UCLA, the two former Pac-12 teams now in the Big Ten. Why would you play them both in a non-con? Lane Kiffin's we'll play Wake and a bunch of high schools, and that'll be it. That's how most SEC teams handle their non-con. But we did see the freshman running back Caden Durham kind of emerge last week. I know Brian Kelly was kind of non-committal about him as being the workhorse. But if that kid keeps running like that, he'll be the workhorse running back in Baton Rouge. So something to keep an eye on there. You think LSU covers that number?
I gotta do. At some point, this offense and everything has to kind of have a breakout game. Dude, UCLA's bad. Like they are really bad. I don't know.
LSU's defense isn't great. I mean, like they're going to give up yards. They're going to go points.
Are they though against UCLA?
So. Put it this way: LSU wins 44 to 28. That's a cover for UCLA.
There's no way they give up. They've scored a total of 16 points and 13 points. They've scored 29 total points on the entire season.
So you don't think they can get
I would
to
be
20?
hard pressed to think that changes. I'm looking up right now. They had 238 total yards against Indiana. And then against Hawaii, who's like a defensive juggernaut, they had 343. They're not very good.
Okay, well, how about 44-20? It's a push.
Why would you don't ride that line? Don't do that.
All right, we got to get to other games. 3:15 Central on the SEC Network. It is 2-1 Vandy at number 7 Mizzou. We were this close to having undefeated Vandy in Columbia, but Mizzou been sitting at about a 20-point home favorite. Eli Drinkwood saying after their close win against Boston College last week, there has to be accountability among our staff and our players. So he's getting those guys refocused. But Vandy, man, it would have been real nice to come into this one undefeated, but still dangerous. I think now people are writing off Vandy going, oh, they just suck. It's old Vandy. Vandy being Vandy. I'm like, dude, they lost on the road at Georgia Southern, was it?
Georgia State.
I don't know. They're all the same to me. They lose to Georgia Southern. Like, it doesn't mean Diego Pavia is not still good and still can't be dangerous. So, like, I still put Mizzou, hey, you better bring your A game.
I just want to let you know that those two schools, like their biggest motto is Southern, not State. It's like their biggest thing.
They're all red wins for the SEC.
They lost in like the worst way possible. It's just the most Vandy way possible, where you finally come back and you score with like a minute 15 left, and then you let them go 5 plays, 75 yards or whatever it was. I mean, Diego Pavia is a good college quarterback. Like he's a playmaker. He will make 3 to 5 plays a game that will keep Vandy in it for some period of time. The 20 points is a little bit high, I feel like, because Mizzou didn't look great last week against Boston College. Like they finally got Luther Burden going, which is like, I think the biggest thing they needed to do because he was nowhere to be found in the first 2 games. But Brady Cook, he's sitting on, I think, 1 total passing touchdown the entire season. And it's not like they haven't been airing it out with him, especially in that opening game. I think it's closer than 20 points. I keep thinking the wheels are going to fall off for Vandy at some point. Like, I hope it doesn't, but it would be nice if they can go on the road and play this game closer than people think.
By the way, Brady Cook, 1 touchdown against Murray State, 1 touchdown against Boston College. That's passing. He does have 4 rushing touchdowns, so he's got that going for him. But
he's a running back, dude, just like Milroe, and a quarterback.
We did think he'd be a little bit better statistically at this point. 2 other ones in the evening, 6:30 Central on ESPN Plus. It is 1-1 Bowling Green at number 25 Texas A&M. The Aggies sitting about a 23-point favorite. Aggies going to go with Marcel Reed likely at quarterback again. I don't know if they've officially announced that, but it sounds like Connor Wegman's not going to go. But Bowling Green gave Penn State, I don't know, 4 quarters. They only lost by 7. I watched that game, and they can move the ball a little bit. I'm a little worried here for the Aggies. Like, backup quarterback, if he doesn't play well, he played great at the Swamp, but, you feel yourself, you're like, oh, we're good. You don't bring it this week. Bowling Green's a team that maybe you find yourself in a 4th quarter battle with.
I mean, yeah, we're like, what, two years removed from the App State loss at home. What a horrible run of bad luck for A&M over the past couple of years with starting quarterbacks. And listen, Connor Wegman, I know he had a lot of preseason hype. I hope they play this Marcel Reed kid the rest of the year. That kid is really fun to watch. He's a really good athlete, and he's a good thrower, even though he's very, very young. And I think he's in his 2nd year. So balled out in the bowl game. I thought he played really well against Florida on the road. But you're right. Like, you have to have some level of humility, because at the very least, Bowling Green is going to put up some points. What was weird about that game against Penn State, it wasn't like it was a bunch of turnovers or like a kick return for a touchdown. It was just their offense, like just going back and forth and trading blows. I think A&M wins this one. I think they win it big. But I think Marcel Reed is the guy moving forward. I hate it for Connor Wegman, but he can do so many more things, and this offense can as well with him over Wegman.
Yeah, I just want to get Connor Wegman back so we can hear him talk again, because nobody had any idea he sounded the way he sounds when he talks.
Wild.
One more here. This one is near and dear to your heart. 7:30 Eastern on ESPNU. It'll be 1-2 Akron at 2-1 South Carolina. The Gamecocks a 28-point favorite. The big question was, is Lenore Sellers going to come back at quarterback? I think we all assumed it would be Robbie Ashford, but we hear Shane Beamer say the other day, yeah, Sellers is good. He's going to be ready to go. Like, is that just coach speak, or are they really going to rush Lenore Sellers back to play Akron?
So here's the thing, dude. I did a whole show on this because I was blown away by Beamer saying that out loud. You hope that it's coach speak, but then he went on to say in that same paragraph that this team presents problems. Akron has not won more than 2 games in a season since 2018, and that's when they won 4. They are, every single year, they are one of the worst teams in all of college football. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, they're pretty bad. I mean like one of the 3 to 5 worst teams in all of college football. You have to cover the spread. And here's the thing, like having Sellers come back is very surprising, mainly because you get a bye week the following week, and then you get Ole Miss and then Bama and then Oklahoma in like a brutal 3-game stretch. You would think you would need him. And you would think that mainly, Gordy, because when he was out, the entire offensive identity just went missing. And that's not even a Robbie Ashford thing. That's not a Lenore Sellers fault. Like, that's Dowell Loggins just not running the offense with 2 similar type quarterbacks, but just completely shutting down for that entire third quarter. They had 0 points. They had 1 total yard offensively. They threw the ball only 4 times in the second half. I mean, they need to figure out what they're going to be able to do in that offense if he does get hurt, because it's a long season and he's getting into like the thick of it right now.
Yeah, I got to give props to South Carolina. They played their butts off against LSU, and a couple of penalties and calls by the refs that didn't go their way. But look, it's still a chance for them to rally. I think they sent a message. We're a competitor this year in the SEC. We're not going to be a doormat. We got a good defensive line. I kept saying they had to improve in the trenches, but even if the offensive line struggled, Lenore Sellers is good enough to deal with, being mobile. Not such a great offensive line, but man, Rocket Sanders, I've been blown away by his resurgence. He's looked awesome. So giving them their roses, they get Akron, they win this one. I think South Carolina is going to pose a problem for some other SEC teams down the road this year.
I would hope so, man. Listen, Akron's giving up 40 points a game. So there's no excuse to not have a big game here.
Yeah, Dylan Stewart should have 3 touchdowns in this one. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. More with Chris Marler here in just a second. I want to remind you guys, today's episode is presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. They're still America's #1 sports book, and some great lines for you to get in on this weekend. We've got Florida -6.5 at Mississippi State. We got Vandy +20.5 at Missouri, if you think they can cover that number. And then LSU -24.5 over at home against UCLA. Some great lines over there at FanDuel. And we've been telling you guys, too, they got a little something different going on for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with that YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just go check them out. Visit them. It's FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. It is FanDuel. All right, one more segment with our buddy Chris Marler here of Locked On Gamecocks and all the other great places you can find him. What, Louisiana Sports? Where do you write?
LouisianaSports.net, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, and then Cover Crimson as well as part of the Next Round Live guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're just everywhere. You're talking all things college football. That's why we love getting you
everywhere
on.
But Twitter.
Yeah, I put your new Twitter handle up there. Is it Vern Dumquist?
It feels deserved at this point. I'm on my 3rd account in like a year and a half. It feels deserved.
It's only a matter of time before this one gets suspended too. 100%. All right, let's get into 3 more games in the evening. 6:45 Central on SEC Network. It'll be 2-1 Georgia Southern at #5 Ole Miss. The Ole Miss Rebels, a 36-point home favorite. Still doesn't feel like enough. Georgia Southern did beat Nevada on the road. They lost to Boise. I think that was week 1. It was a high-flying game. It was 56-45. They lost. So the offense could score some points, but Marlon, I'm still waiting for Ole Miss to be tested. Like, when do they play a real team here?
Yeah, I mean, Kiffin's done a really good job the last 3 seasons of pretending to play a tough first month in the season. like you said, they play a bunch of high school teams, and then they get at Georgia Tech 2 years ago. They go at Tulane last year, and then they go at Wake. They look really, really good. And I know they haven't played anybody with a pulse at all, but the offense seems to be able to put up yards and points at will. Jackson Dart has been like, there's only so much he could have improved on in his game as going into year 3 as a starter. But the completion percentage and the efficiency and the accuracy, man, like he had, I think in his previous 2 seasons as a starting quarterback there, he had 5 total games where he was over 70% completion. Like that's it, just 5. I think none of them were over 80%. He's sitting there at second in the country right now at 83% completion percentage. And again, I know they haven't played anybody, but between him, all the weapons they have on offense, and on top of that, this like group of mercenaries they've gotten from the portal on defense, it seemed to work. It's the anti-Florida State. It's worked out.
Yeah, I want to buy into it. I think they're awesome. They look awesome, but I just, man, like play somebody. They're going to put up a stat after they win this one. It's going to be like, third time Ole Miss has started 4-0 in the last 50 years. It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Like you haven't played anybody. So, but no, I think they should cover that number. I mean, I thought 36. That seems low for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. They want to put up 50 every week.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, also Georgia Southern, like whoever gets the bulk of the carries is going to just absolutely run through, over, and around that Georgia Southern defense. You saw what Boise State did to them. It was ugly all game.
Henry Parrish right up there among, third in the SEC in rushing yards, right behind Jaquindon Jackson and Dylan Sampson. So we'll see. And the old USC coach is there, right? Clay Helton, I think, is their head coach. So, yeah.
Is he? What a change of scenery.
He was the hot thing for like a month, and then that died off very quickly.
LA to Statesboro, Georgia is a tough sell. That is a tough sell.
You hiring movers to bring that stuff across the country? Good
Probably
Lord.
Just leave it.
You guys, who's the next coach? Lincoln Riley? You can just have all this. 7 p.m. Central on ESPN Plus. This sucks it is an ESPN Plus, but I will say it's better that it's no longer the Longhorn Network. It's UL Monroe at number 1 Texas. That feels weird to say. The Longhorns, 44.5-point favorites, and they just officially announced on Friday afternoon this will be officially Arch Manning's first career start. We will get to see Arch Mania in Austin. I'm excited. I couldn't look away last week, Marler. I know it was UTSA, but Arch looks awesome. I can't wait to see like when he is the guy full time, but great opportunity here to go beat up on Louisiana Monroe, who is 2-0. And we know Louisiana Monroe can give SEC teams trouble sometimes.
You cannot sleep on Louisiana Monroe. The Warhawks do not play around. They will come into your house, take your lunch, or whatever Michael Irvin said. Yeah, man, like 44.5 seems crazy. I don't know which number surprised me more, like the number 1 next to their name or the 44.5 points. But man, they've been good. And viewers, this seems to happen like every year. And I'm glad it's not, a season-ending injury or anything like that. He should be back for like the difficult part of their season, which lasts basically only 2 weeks. But dude, Arch coming in and having 2 touchdowns in his first 3 plays, having 5 total touchdowns in the game. The Isaiah Bonds look good. Like they have been firing on all cylinders already. I think that Michigan game gave him a ton of confidence. I expect him to roll again.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. By the way, the Ernest Hill, I believe is his name, the defensive coordinator for Louisiana Monroe, said earlier this week, quote, "We have some kids on our team who played against Arch in New Orleans in high school, and a couple guys done beat him already. So they don't hold too much fear against him. So they're not going to hold any fear against him coming up here on Saturday."
Why? Why would you say it?
I mean, it is the kid's first career start, but he was put it this way, he wasn't just a 5-star top quarterback because his last name's Manning. He's actually good and can throw the football, and apparently he can run. Longest run for a Longhorn quarterback since Vince Young. So
he was clocked at like 20.7 miles an hour.
He's got wheels. He's probably the most athletic Manning. So
not probably. That's first off, the bar is set very, very low. I think Archie is still number 2.
Hey, Archie was damn physical. He just took a lot of sacks. The Saints nearly got him murdered during his NFL career, but he can run. He had some wheels, but yeah, this again, I'm expecting good things out of Arch, but I don't know. Wouldn't it be very interesting? What if Arch struggles? Then what do they do?
Yeah.
That would be an interesting storyline to come out of that one, because you got Mississippi State the next week. So then it's almost like, do you rush back Quinn Ewers? Hey, we need you to beat crappy Mississippi State. I don't know. All right, let's get to the last one. It is the biggest game of the weekend. It is number 6 Tennessee at number 15 Oklahoma. Vol's been sitting at about a 7-point road favorite. They announced they will wear the Stormtrooper white colors, as they call them. I don't know why the link to Star Wars, but I don't know, man. This is a weird one because everybody and their brothers has been talking about how awesome Tennessee is. Josh Heupel has returned to Oklahoma and all this. But I just know I saw last week an inspired team in Columbia because College Game Day was there. I wonder if Oklahoma gets a little juice with Game Day being there. One of the, welcome to the SEC, this big home game. I just have to think they're going to give a little bit more of a fight. I know they haven't looked great through 3 weeks, but I feel like this almost feels like Georgia versus Kentucky last week. Like they're going to go out there and give it their best of the season.
I think anytime the entire public, especially the betting public, is on one side, it's usually not the side you want to be on. Everyone's high on Tennessee. I'm high on Tennessee. I think I did my weekly power rankings and I had them at number 1 because I think that with what I know they haven't faced anybody in the first 3 games, but what they've done in those 3 games has been incredible. I know other team in the country is doing that. They're good defensively. Obviously, like Nico has been good. He's kind of struggled a little bit, like with some efficiency. I think his QBR or his passer rating, one of his, it's either that or PFF grades, numbers that I can't explain, whatever that is. It might as well just be square foot math.
Is expected yard per play. Like, oh my God, expected yard per play. Okay.
Yeah. But he ranks pretty low in terms of that. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. If you're Oklahoma, the good news is you look at the last 5 true road games against like good opponents for Tennessee under Josh Heupel, and you go back to 2022 Georgia, and they got beat handily, 27-13. Really wasn't even that close. Georgia took their foot off the gas. Then you look at last year, they go 1-3 on the road in true road games, and they lost to Florida by double digits. They got boat raced 36-7 by Mizzou. And then they go to Alabama. They have a 20-7 lead at halftime, and they lose 34-20. So they have a lot of issues on the road. They need to get fixed this year. Their only win on the road in that stretch was against Kentucky by like 6 points. All that being said, Oklahoma's offensive line is just awful. It's been awful. Jackson Arnold's constantly running for his life. There's no run game. They haven't had enough like weapons around him that either because they're not healthy or they just haven't like performed. It's good that their defense is the strength of this team, and also Brent Venables' strength. I don't think this is close. I think this is maybe it's close for the first half, and then Tennessee absolutely blows them out. And if you listen, Josh Heupel, we could say the A word. Josh Heupel is a bit of an asshole. Like he onside kicked. He onside kicked against Kent State up 30-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think people have talked enough about that this week. Like, I don't, the Stephen A. Smiths, that feels like a great first take topic on, this is embarrassing for Tennessee and Josh Heupel, but like, I don't know.
Better than your Shaggy.
LeBron James. What are we talking about here?
Dude, I just think that he obviously still will carry a chip on his shoulder from it being his alma mater, and also where he was fired from there as the OC. So I just feel, I guess I probably shouldn't have said a-hole, but Heupel, when he knows that he can get one over on you and he can like make it hurt and prove a point, I think especially in like where he's trying to get this program, he will do it. He will take advantage of that, and as he should. So I think Tennessee is one of the best teams in the country right now, if not the best. I think they roll this weekend by double digits.
Yeah, I was talking with Eric Kane of Locked On Vols earlier this week, and we were all aboard the hype train for Nico for Heisman, and I think we had the wrong Vol. It's Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson could be the Heisman winner for the Vols if he keeps going down this track. I mean, he's been
9 touchdowns.
And Tennessee's kind of been, I don't want to say running back by committee. They've been dedicated to the run. They've had a lot of good running backs in recent years under Heupel. They run the ball very well. It's probably the most underrated thing about him and Lane Kiffin over at Ole Miss. They both run, for being the high flying offenses that they are, they run the ball very effectively. But I kind of went this way, Marler. I almost said this one plays out a little bit like, not exactly, but Alabama USF. Like, I feel like it's close through 2.5 quarters, and Oklahoma, that crowd's keeping them in it.
Yeah.
And then the dam breaks, and Dylan Sampson breaks off a long touchdown run. Nico hits somebody long, bomb, and they win, like 33-20, something like that. They win, it doesn't look close, but it was close for a while. That's how I think it
I
goes.
mean, if this was a 30-minute game, I would like Oklahoma's chances a lot better. But that's what makes Tennessee so dangerous, is they just keep coming after you and keep coming at you.
Well, all we know is this: on Saturday, they're going to lock that door, throw away the key. Somebody's got to come out.
You got to line up and play Kent State.
All right, Marler, appreciate the time as always, man, and we'll talk again next week, all right?
Sounds good, brother. I'll see you then.
All right, that's Chris Marler joining us to talk all things SEC here on Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Now you'll make your second listen. Check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin breaking down all the other games outside of the conference. We're talking all things SEC here. He's covering all the rest of the stuff. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, or Monday rather. Come on back Monday, and we will recap the winners and losers of the weekend.